Hi everyone, my name is Teacher Ilona and welcome to my YouTube channel. My YouTube channel focuses on business studies for grades 10, 11 and 12. So if that's something that you're interested in and if you're a student studying the subject at school, please don't forget to like this video and to subscribe to my channel for more content. In today's video, we are going to be diving into the macro environment. We've already looked at the micro environment, the market environment, and in today's video, we're wrapping it all up with the macro environment. Please do take note that even though this video is specifically made for the grade 10 students, that this content is not specific just to grade 10s. It can also be used for grades 11, grades 12, and even university students because the content with the macro environment remains the same. Please do take note that I don't take any credit for the information given in these slides. I've made use of government resources and I've put them in my description below, as well as at the end of my video in my resources. I'm making use of the content as is and haven't changed it for the reason that I want to keep the information correct, accurate, and relevant for students. I hope you enjoy this video. All right, the macro environment. Let's get started. So, with the macro environment, we are going to be looking at the following. It's a nice acronym that you can remember. We refer to it as PESTLE. So we'll be looking at the political environment, the economic environment, the social environment, the technological environment, the legal environment, and the environmental environment. As mentioned in my previous videos, which I will link above here, the macro environment, we have zero control. We have no control of this environment. So it's very important for us to have indicators and to be aware of what's happening around us. And with us within the business itself can make changes to adapt to the changes that are happening, but we have zero control with what's happening in the environment around us. So the macro environment, let's look at the meaning of the macro environment. The macro environment is a condition that exists in the economy as a whole, rather than a particular sector or region. It refers to the interaction of businesses with forces outside of themselves. The macro environment is also known as the external environment, as I mentioned. The external environment presents both opportunities and threats. That forms part of our SWOT analysis. It is always changing and developing. Businesses have no control over this environment. So, reasons why the macro environment can be a challenge to businesses. First of all, they have no control over this environment. And this environment is always changing. Therefore, it leads challenges for the businesses. It can also make the businesses a bit weary because they won't know when changes are happening. A change in one of the environments in the macro environment can affect any of the other environments which will impact the business. So for example, we're looking at the coronavirus, right? This affected the entire world as a whole. Because of that, it had a negative impact on the social as well as the economic environment. If you think to yourselves, how many businesses couldn't operate? How many businesses were closed for extended periods of time? I'm thinking of businesses like hairdressers, even a lot of the retail stores were closed for a very, very long time. Even gyms. So you need to think about, so when that happened, how did it affect all the other environments and businesses? PESTLE. So, as I mentioned, to make it easier for us to remember, we remember it as the acronym PESTLE. So, I'm not going to go through them in detail because we did just go through them. So PESTLE and political, another one that we can make use of, and we can call it the institutional environment. The social, we can also call the cultural and the demographic environment. And then with the environmental, we need to remember it includes the physical, natural environment, as well as the international and global environment. So PESTLE, the acronym, is used to identify and evaluate factors in the external environment that affects businesses. It gives businesses a better understanding of the external environment and the industry in which it competes. So we're going to look at each of these components as well as reasons and examples of how this can be challenging for the business. All right, there's a nice little diagram, so I would encourage you to pause the video at this time to jot down these points because it's quite a nice summary of what we're going to dive into for this video. So, political. There we're looking at the government and its institutions, as well as the public, private stakeholders that will influence the businesses. Economic. This refers to the external economic factors. So this has to do with what influences buying behaviors of consumers and businesses. Social. This is the immediate physical and social setting in which people live and the society which businesses operate in. Technological refers to the development in the field of technology. So here we're looking at new and innovative knowledge, new inventions that are coming in, and other improvements that might affect businesses. Legal, this is looking at rules that businesses must adhere to and all legal aspects businesses should consider. Environmental, this refers to the physical / natural environment as well as international global environment. So let's dive in and look at each of these in detail. Political environment. So with the political environment, as mentioned just now previously, it represents the government and its institutions. So we're looking at the public and private stakeholders that influence the business. The political environment refers to the actions taken by government that affect daily business activities. So the institution environment refers to the 3 levels of government that put in place laws and rules to regulate how businesses operate. All influences that a government has on a business could be classified under this environment. So let's look at some examples. So some examples that we have here is government policies. So we've got policies and laws made by the government that will influence the way a business operates. So how can this pose as a challenge? There are changes in government often result in policy changes that could affect the business. Political instability, if there are strikes, protests, this impacts on the investment, consumption, and economic growth. Strikes and protests cause political instability and delays in productivity. Think about the strikes that South Africa has faced in the past years. There are strikes that involve a lot of looting and a lot of damage to businesses. So that's a way, but it's a political strike that is happening, and that's how it can affect our business. Tax policy. Tax rates decided by the government impact businesses. So if there's an increase in taxation, it has the same effect as the increase on costs. So a few years ago, I think in about 2015, when the VAT went up from 14% that it had been for years to 15%, something like that. Think about now how that impacts our business. So now we have to pay more VAT for the products, and now obviously the prices are also going to increase. Corruption. Corruption impacts the implementation of the rule of law and democratic values. So reports of corruption in businesses can cause shareholders and investors to lose trust and confidence in a business. Consumer rights organizations. They may prevent businesses from selling products if they do not meet certain requirements. So consumers may be called upon to boycott certain products or businesses. If the consumers find out that the workers are being unfairly treated, or maybe they're being paid lower than the minimum wage, then that's an example where someone could go onto social media and be a whistleblower, and then consumers can boycott that business. So there's another example in that. And the consumers' rights organization can also get wind of this and, as I mentioned, encourage consumers not to spend money at that business. The economic environment. So the economic environment refers to the external economic factors that influence buying habits of customers and businesses. It therefore affects the performance of businesses. The economic environment relates to all the economic factors that affect commercial and consumer behavior. The economic environment consists of all external factors in the immediate marketplace and the broader economy, which includes inflation, petrol price, interest rates, and exchange rates. So a good example here, if there's an increase in the petrol price, which we did experience last year in 2022, I know of a lot of people that started carpooling. So instead of 5 people driving to work, they used one car and all contributed the petrol. Now you can think of how that affects the businesses that were selling petrol. So now they're losing 4 customers because of that. An example, some people rather took public transport because it was easier and cheaper than spending petrol on their own car. I know for myself, I don't drive around as much as I used to because of the price of petrol. So that influenced my consumer behavior. And there's more and more examples that can go with this, but one typical example that we can make use of. So inflation, so like the petrol price. So inflation decreases the value of money. Okay, we spend more on less goods. Okay, so a basket of groceries that cost 500 Rand, let's say 20 years ago, could give us 30 items. Nowadays, it can give you maybe 10. That's what we're talking about when we talk about inflation. So rising costs due to inflation or petrol price could affect business sales and profitability, as the example I just used. Interest rates. Interest rates influence the cost of capital of businesses. High interest rates mean that loans will become more expensive. Conditions of credit. Banks will balance their risk and expected return. The price of credit impacts the willingness and ability of banks to lend money. Exchange rates. The price of the rand in terms of other currencies, imports and exports. Fluctuations in the foreign currency may restrict imports. Economic growth, so we have upswings and downswings in the economic activity of the business cycles. So recessions restrict businesses with adequate support to continue operating. Now we're looking at the social environment. Social aspects include changes in cultural and demographics. The social environment refers to the immediate physical and social setting in which people live, and the society in which businesses operate. The cultural environment affecting businesses includes religion, customs, traditions that influence actions and decisions. The demographic environment refers to the socio-economic characteristics of a population that businesses use to identify the product preference and purchasing behaviors of consumers. So let's look at some examples and challenges. So social issues. This includes issues like poverty, unemployment, and crime. Social issues affecting consumer spending and business profitability. So if you are in a community where the unemployment is quite high, that's going to affect them spending their money, because if there's a high unemployment rate, it means that those people don't have a lot of money. They're spending their money on basic needs. So if you're a business that sells luxury needs, you're not going to get those customers, and obviously your profitability and your success in that community is going to be affected 100%. Health issues such as HIV, AIDS, and TB. Serious health issues have a negative impact on employee productivity. So in this one, yes, we're looking within the business, but there could be an outbreak of TB or HIV in a certain country or a certain region, and that'll affect your employees. So that's how that has an effect on the business. Again, situations like this, the business cannot control. Low levels of illiteracy. Large numbers of people in South Africa are poorly educated and therefore unskilled. Customers may not be able to afford products because of low income levels. Social and cultural diversity. Different cultural norms, preferences, beliefs, and values. Problems may arise because of the different cultural backgrounds, and it may have a conflict in the workplace. So language. The Constitution recognizes 11 official languages. Businesses may not be conversant with the local language of their customers. So, with that one, if you're in a community that, for example, speaks predominantly Afrikaans or predominantly Zulu, and you're an English business, you could be affected in that way. Although the world has gone very English when we're talking about the business world, but there are still some communities that speak their languages and they're very strong and proficient in those languages and may not be able to speak English. The technological environment. So here we're looking at the development in the field of technology with new and innovative knowledge, new inventions, and other improvements in techniques that affect businesses. It refers to external factors in technology that impact business operations. It relates to the factors that create new technologies and thereby provide opportunities and threats to businesses. Changes in technology affect how businesses operate. The technological environment shows the fastest changes in the macro environment, such as technologies that have started the fourth industrial revolution. So a very, very good example here that I always remember with the technological environment. So the company Kodak used to specialize in disposable cameras. So it was those old school cameras where you would take photos, couldn't look at them, and then go to the printing or Photoshop and get the photos developed. And then obviously they throw away the camera. And there were only a certain amount of photos you could take. It was a bit like 100 or 200 photos. So I remember that they had recognized that a lot of companies were going digital. But that company felt, no, there will still be a need for disposable cameras. And it ended up affecting the business so much that I do believe they either closed down or they had to reinvent themselves. So that I'm not too sure about. But that's a very good example of how technology is advancing. If you as a company are not advancing with that technology, it can really damage the company and the profitability of that company. All right, so here's some examples and challenges. So technological developments. So these include wireless communication, business techniques, and smartphone applications. Businesses may not be able to keep up or be aware with the latest technology, like I mentioned. All right, most companies have an app for their business, and companies that don't have an app may be affected in that way. And most companies have a website. So if you're starting off and within the first year you don't have a website, you might need to look into that, because it's not going to be good for your company, because everyone's online and everyone goes to go look at the website. So there's a nice example there. Technical skills. So a skilled technical workforce is needed, and this requires training and retaining of employees. Employees may not be skilled to operate or maintain new technology and equipment. That's why most companies have an IT department, an IT team, or they recruit members or they have that outsourced. But it's very, very important to have a team on hand to assist with the operating and maintaining of technologies. High maintenance costs. So it's very expensive to buy these new technologies, and it's costly to maintain, especially at the rate that the technology is growing and advancing. So to keep up with those changes can be very expensive. Staying up to date with the latest and greatest technology can be very expensive, as I mentioned. Technological dependence results in communication breakdowns, disruptions, or delays. Businesses experiencing system failure will be rendered paralyzed, which will cause businesses to lose capital due to stalling in operations. So with this, there was a very good example what happened to Ticketmaster when the Taylor Swift sales went out. I have to mention it, sorry, I'm a huge Swiftie fan, huge. I'm loving all these videos on TikTok currently. Anyways, so with that, I remember that the system actually crashed for, it was either a couple minutes or a few hours, and a lot of people couldn't buy tickets. So what happened was there were so many users trying to buy tickets and logging at the same time, and the system couldn't handle that. So as I mentioned, so if you are technologically dependent, if you're buying tickets to a show, there's a very good chance you need to buy those online. There's very seldom tickets that you buy actually in stores, specifically for Taylor Swift, such a big artist. So something like that also, as it mentions here, it will render the business paralyzed. And I know there was quite a damaging effect on their business because of this. Security and cryptography. The risk of cyber attacks, including stealing, erasing, and changing of data. So businesses' IT systems may be hacked by fraudsters, and this could expose its confidential information. It could also be very damaging to the business. So this is becoming more and more of an issue of cyber attacks and hackers. So businesses need to make sure that they really amp up their security systems. Then we're looking at the legal environment. So here we're referring to the laws that are passed by the government, which affect the businesses. So these elements refer to the rules that businesses must adhere to and all other legal aspects that the businesses should consider. So laws and regulations have to be introduced to ensure that there is a framework of legal systems in businesses to trade and operate. Legal factors are external factors that refer to how the law affects the businesses to operate and consumers' behavior. A good example here is the working hours of employees, that if they are working overtime, you need to pay them overtime. So that's the legal aspect. We're also here looking at the minimum wage to make sure that employees are protected, that they're working in a safe and healthy environment. But we're going to look at those examples now, but it's just something that's quick and easy to remember when you're sitting in that test or exam. All right, so we got quite a lot of examples here. So if we're looking at the business law, we're looking at all those types of acts here. We've got the SDA, the BBBEE, and the EEA. All right, so there we're considering certain acts that have a direct impact on the businesses. Then we're looking at the labor law, more acts, the LRA, the BCEA, the one I mentioned with the basic conditions, the CODA, right? These dictate how the employees should be treated. So there are legal requirements for the businesses to operate, and these can be quite time consuming. Consumer laws, we're looking at the NCA and the CPA. So the NCA, the businesses must do background checks on clients, and this can be costly and time consuming. Okay, they need to do background checks to check, will this person be able to pay for their goods that they're buying on credit. Then the CPA, This is the business must give information on the ingredients of products. So now you'll see every product has a list of ingredients. Some even have the percentages, and they've got all the nutritions. So it's because of the Consumer Protection Act that they have that. Competition laws. A law that promotes market competition by regulating anti-competitive conduct by companies. So businesses may be liable to paying fines for non-adherence to various acts. Municipal bylaws. A law passed by the local government, such as zoning ordinances, business hours, permits, and licenses. So businesses have to apply for a trading license before they are able to legally trade. So an example here, obviously the license that a business needs. Should the business, for an example, want to trade and sell alcohol, there's a separate license that they will need, and that's what they're referring to in that section there. The environmental environment. So remember, this one includes two, so we're going to look at both. All right, so we're looking at the physical natural environment as well as the international global environment. So the physical environment, this refers to natural and man-made variables that surround businesses. It also refers to the availability of natural resources and sustainability of mineral resources. It includes the physical location, the space, and any other thing that physically impacts a business. So an example here, an earthquake. Think about how that's going to physically affect the structure and the building of the business. All right, so ecological aspects. So weather and climate can influence the availability of natural resources. Unpredictable weather may cause significant disruption to businesses. If the country is currently going through a drought and you are a company that distributes potatoes, that's going to affect your business very, very badly. So that's what we're looking at here. Non-renewable resources. So the depletion of non-renewable resources. Some natural resources like oil and coal are scarce and expensive. Pollution. Air, water, and noise pollution. Pollution poses a threat to the sustainability of a business. Measures to dispose waste materials may also be very expensive. So a good example here of the renewable resources as well as the pollution. A lot of companies that are within a shopping center actually have been contracted with a recycling company. So all their boxes that they use and dispose of actually get recycled. So there's a nice example of the challenge that the business has faced and how they combated that challenge. Then we're looking at the international global environment. So the global environment refers to the uncontrollable local and international interactions that influence how a business operates. International businesses also increase competition in domestic markets, and they introduce new opportunities to foreign markets. The global competition encourages businesses to become more innovative, efficient in their use of resources. So, globalization, international trade. The exploitation of nature of large multinational corporations, health issues such as COVID-19 pandemic, the Ebola virus, and so on. Businesses are unable to import and export goods during lockdown periods. We all know that, and we have experienced that. Many businesses are unable to operate efficiently, and they could face liquidation and therefore a closure of the business. Civil wars and political instability. International problems impact businesses across the world. So think about a time when we had World War I and World War II, how that impacted the businesses. All right, then here is a nice example. Here's a nice summary of everything that we went through. So again, I'd agree, you can pause the video at this time and maybe just jot these down. It's actually quite a nice little mind map that you can make use of. I'm not going to go through it just because I'd be repeating myself too much in this video. But you can see here with PESTLE, we've went through those. And here you can see all of the types of issues and just a summary of each of the environments there. All right, then we've reached the end of the video. Here are the resources that I've made use of in this video. As mentioned, I am linking them in my description below. You are more than welcome to use these resources. Some of these books actually have nice activities and exercises and revision exercises, so I would encourage you to download them and check them out. They are free of charge, and the link I'm providing down below, from that link you'll get the direct download of the PDF, so do check that out. I want to thank you so much for watching my video today. I really hope that you guys enjoy your March holidays. I'm definitely going to enjoy mine. I will be posting every week regardless, because I know you guys can make use of this information when you come back to school. But I hope you enjoyed this video. If you liked it, please don't forget to hit that like button and to subscribe to my channel for more content, as well as suggestions. Guys, I'm loving the suggestions. I'm definitely adding them to the schedule and I'm getting to them as quickly as I can. I will be honest, there's too little weekends and too many suggestions, but I am putting your suggestions there and I am uploading these videos. So please, please, please don't stop suggesting. I am adding them. And again, I hope you guys have an awesome holiday. Kick your feet back, relax, maybe spend some time, watch Netflix, just enjoy it, because we know these June exams are coming up and you'll regret not taking the rest that you need now. I can't wait to see you guys in the next video. Bye for now.